This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah! Another myth bites the dust.
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Amber Kim from The Perfect RIA. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow Up Friday, where I'll be covering the highlights and action items from this week's episodes. On Monday, Matt and Micah were talking about tax projections and kicked off by stating that there's this idea that somehow software can take the place of being a really good financial planner, but it can't, at least not yet. The guy said it's not about the tools at your disposal, but the craftsman behind the tools that sets everything apart. And that's the same with financial planning. So when you rely too much on software for an answer, you don't know when it's wrong. They said that software can help and speed up the process, but you have to understand it and how to communicate what you gain from it for a client, because if not, it can just be noise. Micah said that with software, you really need to understand what's going into it to create a right answer. He feels that software helps with cross-checking, and you should be able to do a tax projection without any software because that's where you're going to find those mistakes. Matt shared this crazy example that shows how tax projection software works, comparing it to planning for his daughter's wedding in the future as to what day it would happen and what the weather would be like. He said software creates a false sense of accuracy and also that people are drawn to that complexity, but really it just makes no sense to the client. With about 90% of your clients, the guy said that with tax planning, it primarily boils down to whether you're realizing taxable events now or deferring them till tomorrow. The guys then discuss when a tax projection is helpful and when it's not. It's a value add, so it needs to be personal to your client and it needs to include action items, even if the action is no action needed. Matt said the goal is to provide clarity to complex subjects and then to get the client to take action. You don't want to just add complexity, and a software isn't going to be able to communicate this to a client, so they'll get lost in the noise and then no action will be taken. The guys also talk through when they won't give a tax projection to a client. Now, this would be if they don't have a tax return, because then it would be all guesswork and ultimately reckless to do this. So they need a tax return, and they need to know if there's been any major changes for the year. You're going to have outlier clients, but for the rest of your clients, you need to get their full tax returns. For advisors who are struggling to get tax returns, the guys said that you want to get over that hurdle by demonstrating value, and that as the client's advisor, you're trying to minimize the amount that the IRS is waiting to take from their retirement accounts. Micah said you also want to get current income statements. With that, he said he's really looking for things that have changed and to make sure that things are shaping up the way they should. He said you really end up with 3 broad categories that you can put your clients in. Your workers, either fixed income or variable income, and then retirees. And he said you can set up your tax projections for each of those. It's about creating efficiencies and effectiveness so that you're not spending hours on each client. The guys also like to get the 8821 set up with their clients because they end up with more data and that there's a lot of optics that are happening there. Micah said he wants to make sure that a client knows that every stream of income is taxable. And Max said that the best laid tax plan, if not implemented, has no value. Micah wants to make sure that his clients are on track for their current income, plus or minus $1,000. He wants to know what their tax bracket is now, what their bracket will be in 2026, and at retirement time. And do they need to do anything between now and then? Are there any Roth conversions and what their Medicare income limits will be? What's their RMD and will that push them into a higher schedule? He said those basic things will give you a solid tax projection for 99% of your clients. Matt said that advisors get stuck by saying that they're going to spend an entire afternoon doing tax planning for all their clients, but he said that isn't realistic. So you not only need to be realistic, but you need to figure out how you're going to speed up that process. And that's where your team or virtual assistant comes in to help go through this. In addition, Micah recommends that you have a process for how you fix those little things and what your strategy is for that. Lastly, the guy said that you need to make sure that you're communicating with the client so they understand what things need to happen, and you need to empower them to take action. They said taxes can be intimidating, but it's this area of incredible value for your clients, and it's a great opportunity. Let's get into action items. Sign up for the RTS Tax Summit September 27th through 29th in Las Vegas, and you can attend this virtually or in person. For our members, if you want your practice to be dramatically better in the future, complete the practice analyzer so you know what is possible. And make sure that you have an assistant who's helping you out. You can text RIA to 55123 to get Belay's free ebook on virtual assistants. On Wednesday, it was the Matthew Show, as Matthew Jarvis was joined by Matthew Halloran from Proudmouth, which helps advisors produce authentic and valuable content and rise above that noise. They kicked off the episode by talking about a conference that Matt had recently attended, and he shared a big takeaway, which is that you have to be unapologetically yourself and in your content because that's what will help accelerate your influence. And he said influence is the only marketing that's left that works. He said you can't sell people anymore. People want to buy from you. He said that you have to be your authentic self because that's what's going to come out. And if you aren't, you're going to burn out. The guy said that advisors hang their hat on everything they can't control, and that if you're just repeating the things that people can hear on CNN or every other email subscription, you're just noise. One of Matt Halloran's core principles is rising above the noise, and he said you need to know who you're talking to and what their real problems are. He shared that only 12% of advisors have a podcast, and that you really should be focusing on your niche and you want to focus on engagement. People want to hear what you're passionate about, and they want you to talk about things that you love to do when you're not working. Find those real connections, and when you find those, then everything changes. He said one of the benefits of doing a podcast is that it becomes practice, and no matter what, it's going to make you better. Matt Halloran said that there are 5 aspects of return on what he refers to as influence, not investment when it comes to podcasting. 1, that it's the best client communication tool you're ever going to have because it's portable and it's convenient. 2, it actually gives you a greater share of wallet. 3 is centers of influence. You gain access to another person's whole audience, and the unintended consequences are basically an endorsement. He said it also leads to easier referability, and then the last one is new net assets. He said he's helped bring in millions of dollars of new assets for clients. He said if you follow those other things that were mentioned, then new business just happens. He said that when you show somebody that you care and that you're listening, that everything changes. So you should listen to listen, not just listen to talk. And as a financial planner, your job is to listen to what your clients need. Let's get into action items. You need to start learning how to communicate at scale. So whether that's podcasting, blogging, or social media. Join the Pod Rocket Academy at no cost to learn how to brand yourself, set up a marketing plan, or learn how to podcast. You can visit podrocketacademy.com. And then whatever platform you want to do, start today. Even if it's just recording yourself on your iPhone, you just need to commit and start. On Thursday, Jamie wanted to talk about all things new client onboarding and setting those expectations from a prospect's initial impression with you. She said you have an opportunity to be a part of somebody's experience every single day, but only if you're doing it correctly and powerfully to create massive impact. Jamie said once you get hired, then what? What does your client onboarding experience look like? She said, what starts in the beginning will last until the end. So this all begins with a prospect process and bringing new people in. She said, you've got to be able to blow that client away in the next couple of months because you made a lot of promises and delivered a lot of content in that prospect meeting. So with financial planning, people know their finances inside and out. So when a client comes in, she said they're not ignorant, but they don't know all the technicalities and they don't want to do things wrong and create bigger problems for themselves. So she said you need to give them a rich and rewarding experience when they come in to meet with you. You want to provide so much more value to that client than what you're charging them. Jamie said she has zero head trash when she's talking to a business client about charging big fees for them because she knows she's going to give them so much value and take them so much further than they would have gotten on their own. So when you decide to work with someone, she said that you need to decide whether you're going to make a meaningful difference or not. And if you are, then you have to deliver extraordinary value when you start off that process. And you've got to go back to your basics. So she said you need to look at the top of your funnel. And you need to think about the first impression your prospect has. What experience do they have when they walk into your office? Pay attention to how your office smells. Does the door creak? Are there fingerprints on the door? She said, what is that full-blown experience? Those are the things that need to be figured out ahead of time because the smallest details matter. So remember, When it comes to setting up the experience for the prospect and onboarding new clients, she said what you do in the beginning lasts until the end. So if you've implemented Surge, then she said you can't make a prospect feel that you're available tomorrow or next week. They've got to know that you schedule out several weeks or even months in advance. You're setting that precedence for what the client is going to expect for the entire time they're working with you. Let's get into action items. Write down what is your prospect process and what is your new client onboarding process. What are you doing that makes you one of a kind and not one of many? And what makes you give a rich and rewarding experience to that new client? Write down those policies, write down those processes, define those experiences, and go back to the beginning and set that stage for exactly what you want your clients to feel, think, and say when they leave your office. A couple of things before I wrap up. Don't miss out on our events this month. Registration is closing soon for our Retirement Tax Services Tax Summit and our Invictus Mastermind. Visit theperfectra.com to get signed up. That wraps up this week's recap. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow-Up Friday. Please share this or any of our episodes with another advisor or a team member who you think might benefit from listening. And until next time, happy planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect RIA.